Tonight, someone calls 911 and waits 19 minutes. The number that saves them isn't 911. I want you to sit with that for a second, because everything you believe about emergency response was built on a promise nobody actually made you. You dial 3 digits. Somewhere a light comes on, and in your head, help is already moving. That picture is comforting, and it is, in a lot of places in this country, wrong. Not because anyone is lying to you, because nobody ever told you the truth in the first place, and the truth is boring and administrative and buried in a county report you have never read. There are 5 mistakes people make in the minutes between the call and the arrival. 5. And they are not exotic. They are not tactical. 4 of them happen in ordinary houses with ordinary people who did everything they thought they were supposed to do. But the 5th one, the one at number 1, is not a mistake anybody makes during an emergency at all. It is a mistake made on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon months before by someone who had no idea they were making it. I have watched that mistake kill a man in a house that had everything he needed sitting in a drawer 12 feet from his body. We will get there. I spent a career in this. I was a paratrooper flight medic with the 160th SOAR in Desert Storm, which meant my entire job was the gap between when something terrible happened and when a hospital got involved. Later, I was an ICU nurse, and I watched the other end of that same gap arrive through the doors every night. Today, I am a family nurse practitioner. Different uniform, same math. The outcome is decided in the gap, not in the ambulance, not in the emergency department, in the gap. Let's start the countdown. Number 5, you do not know your response time and you assumed it was short. Here is what almost nobody does. Go find out how long it actually takes an ambulance to reach your address, not your city's average, not the number on the county website that blends the downtown station with your road, your address. Call your local fire district during business hours. Be polite. Tell them you are a resident and you would like to know the average response time to your area and whether a unit is stationed full-time or on call. They will tell you. They are not hiding it. Nobody has ever asked. And the reason this is mistake number 5 and not mistake number 50 is that every single decision you make in an emergency depends on this one number. If help is 4 minutes away, you hold pressure and wait. If help is 22 minutes away, you are not waiting for care. You are the care. Those are 2 completely different responses to the exact same event, and people are picking the wrong one because they never learned which world they live in. I have talked to families who found out their real response time on the worst night of their life. That is the cost, not embarrassment, not inconvenience. A person who bled out or arrested in a living room while everyone in the room stood in a posture of waiting, because waiting is what you do when help is coming, and nobody in that room knew help was not coming for a very long time. You are going to hear people say response times are improving. In most of this country, over the next several years, they will get longer, not shorter. Rural stations are closing, volunteer rosters are thinning, call volume is climbing. That trend does not reverse quietly. Stay with me because mistake number 4 is the one that turns a survivable injury into a permanent one, and it is done almost every time out of pure love. Number 4, you move them, somebody goes down, and every instinct you have says get them up, get them comfortable, get them to the car. Your hands move before your brain does, and in a lot of cases, that is the moment the injury gets worse. If somebody has fallen and they are complaining of neck or back pain, or they are confused, or they cannot feel or move something, you do not move them. You stabilize where they are unless they are in immediate danger from fire, water, traffic. If somebody is unconscious but breathing normally, you do not sit them up and you do not leave them flat on their back where they can lose their airway. You roll them onto their side, head supported, mouth pointed toward the floor. That is it. That single position has saved more lives than most equipment ever invented, and it costs nothing and requires no training beyond this sentence. And here is the one people fight me on. Do not load them in the car. I know the ambulance is slow and your truck is right there and you can drive, but you cannot drive and treat at the same time. The moment you put that person in a back seat, you have taken the only trained set of hands in the vehicle and put them on a steering wheel. I have seen the outcome of that decision more than once, and the drive was always faster, and the outcome was always worse. The cost of mistake 4 is a family that did everything with love and got a wheelchair or a funeral for it. Which brings us to number 3, and this is the one that makes me the angriest, because it is not ignorance, it is permission. Number 3, you wait for permission to stop the bleeding. Serious bleeding kills fast, faster than most people believe, and what I see over and over is a person standing over someone who is bleeding, holding a folded towel, applying what I would call polite pressure, waiting for somebody with more authority to arrive and take over. Stop it. Now. Hard. Direct pressure means your full body weight through the heel of your hand into the wound, and you do not lift it to check. Every time you lift to check, you tear away the clot you just spent 4 minutes building. Pack more material on top if you need to. Never remove what is underneath. If it is an arm or a leg and pressure is not controlling it, that is what a tourniquet is for, high and tight above the wound, and you tighten it until the bleeding stops, and yes, it is going to hurt. And that is not the problem you are solving right now. Buy a real tourniquet, not a novelty one. Learn to put it on with one hand, on yourself, before you ever need to do it on somebody you love with your hands shaking. I want you to notice something. Nobody in your life has ever sat you down and taught you this. Not your school, not your doctor's office, not your employer, unless you got lucky. There is no conspiracy in a smoky room. There is something quieter and more effective than a conspiracy, which is an entire system built on the assumption that professionals will always be there in time. And that assumption is so foundational that questioning it is not on anybody's agenda. Nobody suppressed this. Nobody needed to. It simply was never anyone's job to tell you. Number 2, and this one is invisible, which is exactly why it costs so much. Number 2, the medics arrive and nobody in the room can tell them anything. Picture it. 19 minutes have passed. The door opens. 2 people come in with bags and they start asking questions, and they ask them fast because they are trying to compress a medical history into 90 seconds while they work. What medications is he on? What is he allergic to? Does he have a cardiac history? What time did this start? Has he had anything to eat? Did he hit his head? Has this happened before? And the room says, I think so, I'm not sure, some heart thing, he takes a lot of pills, they're in the bathroom, hang on. Every one of those answers costs time and costs precision. Treatment gets more conservative when history is unknown, because unknown history means unknown risk. That delay is real, and it is measured in minutes, at the exact moment. Minutes are the only currency that matters. The fix takes 1 afternoon, and it is the least glamorous thing in this entire video. 1 page, current medications with doses, allergies, diagnoses, surgeries, your doctor's name, emergency contacts. 1 copy on the refrigerator, 1 in each vehicle, 1 in a wallet. When those medics come through the door, somebody hands them that page and stops talking. In Afghanistan with the 76th Infantry Brigade Task Force Phoenix, everything I did in a handoff was structured because the receiving provider needs the same facts in the same order every time or things get missed. Your refrigerator can do that. It just has to have the page on it. So that is the list. Know your response time. Do not move them. Stop the bleed. Have the page ready. And if that were all of it, you would close this video feeling reasonably prepared, and you would be wrong, because every one of those 4 things assumes something that is almost never true. Number 1, only one person in the house knows any of this, and it is you. Here is the man in the drawer. He had done the work. He had the tourniquet. He had the trauma kit. He had the printed page. He had thought about all of it seriously, the way you are thinking about it right now. And when he went down in his own kitchen, his wife stood over him and did not know that the drawer 12 feet away had a tourniquet in it, because he had never shown her, because he was going to, because there was always going to be time. That is mistake number 1. You are the single point of failure in your own household. Everything you have learned, every piece of gear you have bought, every plan you have made is stored in exactly one brain, and there is a category of emergency in which that brain is the one lying on the floor. You have to give it away. All of it. This weekend. Walk your spouse to where the kit is, open it. Make them put the tourniquet on your arm badly and laugh about it, and then do it again until it is not funny. Teach your teenager the side position. Show your kid where the page on the refrigerator is and what to do with it. Say your address out loud the way a dispatcher needs to hear it, and make everybody in that house say it back. Mark this. In the next 12 months, you are going to hear about a household where somebody had every right piece of equipment and the wrong person was standing up. It happens constantly. It never makes the news because the story is not dramatic. It is just quiet and permanent. Now, back to the number I opened with. The number that decides whether they live isn't 911. It is the interval. It is however many minutes stand between your call and the sound of a door opening, and that interval belongs to you. Nobody else is in it. Not dispatch, not the fire district, not the hospital. You and whoever else in that house you were willing to teach. 19 minutes is not a wait. 19 minutes is a shift, and you are on it whether you trained for it or not. If you want the training that goes underneath all of this, it lives in the Total Preparedness Program. Over 400 modules built by someone who has worked every end of this problem, covering bleeding control, airway, medication planning, family emergency protocols, and the medical preparedness material you will not find anywhere else at this price. It is $9.97 a month or $199 for lifetime access at tpp.suburbanprepper.com. If you would rather start with the physical gear, the tourniquets and trauma kits I actually recommend are on the Amazon storefront linked below. Go find out your response time this week. Then go show one other person where the kit is. This is survival. This is resilience. This is preparedness.